My girlfriend, who is a mega animal person, has captured a squirrel. She catches animals, brings them in overnight, takes care of them, checks on them, and then releases them. But I woke up to a squirrel. Isn't it a beautiful day here in Florida? So we're about to head to the gym and we're gonna be doing some squats. It is leg day. I'm about to take you guys in the car with me like always. But today I have a couple things I want to talk about. Something I was thinking about after I found a quote from a saint last night. Saint Paisios, I think was his name. I'm not sure the pronunciation, but he said, the goal is to rise spiritually, not simply to avoid sin. Now, he could have meant a lot of things by that, but we're going to talk about kind of what that stoked in me reading that. Let's go to the gym. Now I'm low on gas, so we're going to make a quick stop on the way there. But let's talk about the goal being to rise, not simply to avoid sin. Now I talk a lot about scripture on this channel. I talk a lot about Proverbs. I am always seeking to live a positive life, a life where you grow and you improve, you become better. Things like this are important to me. I think it is natural to change, but it is supernatural to change positively. And this is an idea that I've really been developing in my head over probably close to a year, maybe more, is this idea of change, people changing specifically. You see it in movies and you hear people in real life, I'm sure you've heard somebody say this, they say the line, people don't change. And that phrase, it's common vernacular and it's used, and sometimes it's used to prove it, sometimes it's used to disprove it, and oftentimes it's used in regards people with negative attributes or who have committed like severe negative actions like addiction, addictive personalities, gambling, drinking, drugs, cheating, these negative things that people try to stop and then they fall back into it, and they try to stop and they fall back into it. And in order to protect themselves from being hurt more in the future, they resign themselves to this idea of people don't change, where they say, okay, I'm not going to invest in this person or their potential for a positive outcome. People do not change. Whenever you find someone who is doing negative things, get away from them because they're negative and they're not going to get better. And I don't think that there's no merit to that advice of don't surround yourself with people with a lot of negative attributes. I don't think that there's no merit to that. And there's a lot of cases where I've seen people make their lives significantly worse by spending time with people who had these negative attributes that they really should have just not been with. They should have not been spending time with them. But that said, people do change. I think it's the opposite of people don't change. I think people will change. I think change is a guarantee. For instance, before that person was a drug addict or a cheater or a drunk or a gambler or whatever the negative thing is, before they were that, they weren't. They had to change to become that. You have aspects where you see like children doing negative things, but for the most part, they become these things, which means they change into them, which means change is a guarantee. So assuming that I'm right and that change is a guarantee and you're going to change, that doesn't mean you're going to change for the better. And I think a lot of times the changes that people make, they are changing for the worse. They're getting worse. And I think that's really just entropy, atrophy. Time goes on, things degrade. This is why maintenance is such a peculiarly crucial aspect of existence. Things decay to atrophy and entropy unless they are maintained. And they're definitely not going to improve unless active measures are being taken to improve them. So people, not only do people change, they will change. But will they change for the better or for the worse? So that ties back to what I said earlier, where change is a natural thing, but positive change is a supernatural thing. And you can take supernatural to mean like spiritual as in through God's intervention, which is how a lot of times I choose to see it. But you could also take it to mean supernatural as in extraordinary, or even just exceptional. So extraordinary people or exceptional people are what it takes to change for the better, to make positive self change, if you wanted to read it that way. But the end result is the same, where the ball falls into your court. Are you going to change for the better or for the worse? You don't really have a third option, I don't believe. And if there is a third option, that third option is go to extreme lengths to stay the same, which you would have to try really hard to do that. Otherwise, getting worse is the default. So if you're not self-improving, you are self-decaying. You're going to change. And there's really nothing you can do to stop that from happening short of dying, which even that in itself is a change. That is a change. And if you do not get involved in changing for the better, choosing to improve yourself, learning, gaining knowledge, gaining muscles, gaining capabilities, skills, then that control is being handed over to atrophy, which means you will change for the worse. You're either going to get better or you're going to get worse. There is no in between, and you won't get better by not being active in self-improvement, improving yourself. And it doesn't have to be lifting weights at the gym. It should be, but it doesn't have to be. You can learn a language. You can do a lot of things. Now, I'm not just saying this to be the same like motivational stuff you see from a bunch of different like content creators or whatever. That's not really the point. I guess it's kind of the point of these vlogs. A lot of it's just so I can talk to a camera and interact with you guys more. But it's more than that. It's me I'm not trying to motivate you. I'm trying to give you a lens. I'm trying to provide you with a new tool to utilize in how you perceive life. And I think there's a pretty big difference. I think a lot of motivational content is exciting and great. I actually love motivational content. I love it. I've talked about this in other vlogs. I'm kind of anti-Goggins on that one. Goggins himself is used for motivational content constantly, and he doesn't like it sometimes because he's like, you don't need motivation, just do the thing. I love motivational content. I watch it all the time. I watch hype Dragon Ball Z edits. I don't care. I don't care that it's lame. I love it. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to motivate you and be like, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, so get better. It's not like that. It's a lens. I'm trying to give you a lens to change how you look at things, because that's where the actual change starts. If you want to change your life for the better, it's going to start with perspective. And that's something I think a lot of people don't really clarify. Like they do, but they do it in ways that obfuscates exactly what's happening. So something you hear a lot from a lot of creators is, well, it's a mindset thing. You got to change your mindset. Once you shift your mindset, that's when everything changes. And there's a lot of truth to that. But the way they phrase it makes it sound like you just decide to not be frustrated anymore, and there you go. It's not like that. I mean, it is like that in a result kind of way. Like that is kind of what you have to do. But I think of the way that people should be phrasing it is you need to change your perspective. And even that also sounds vague. I'm not trying to be vague, and that's the problem with a lot of these other content creators. Is a lot of them are vague. They're like, yeah, once you change your lens, then you're a millionaire. No, that's not what I mean. It's you have to force yourself to look at something and find a positive spin on it, even when you don't want to, which is something I still struggle with doing a lot, But that's what it means to change your perspective, right? So you have to look at your life and say, is my life getting better? Okay, how can I figure out a way to spin this into something that will make me start improving? That's what they mean when they say change your mindset or whatever, or mindset grind, all of this stuff. It is you have to take a little bit of accountability and say, all right, it's up to me to spin this into something that is going to motivate me to want to change. It's not just about saying, I gotta change, or I have to want to change. In fact, a really hard lesson for me that I've had to learn lately is a lot of times trying to make yourself do things. There is a time and place for it, but it's gonna come out to a detriment. It's not gonna be for your betterment. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, because that feels like control. Saying, all right, once I lock in, buckle down, and just get to work, then that's where you see the results, through the grind. And again, I do think there is some truth to that, but in my own experience, when I've tried to do that, it doesn't work. The most success that I've had in my own life is when I can just do a very, very easy toggle, like a shift in my mindset and my perception to make the hard thing easier. So like they always say, you've heard that phrase, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. That is oftentimes taken to mean find something you love doing to make the thing you have to do all of the time. But it can also mean take the thing you have to do all the time and find a way to make yourself love it. And this can be hard, but there are ways. There are ways, and some people just have really terrible jobs, and I'm really sorry. My heart goes out to them. I'm not trying to say, oh, just change your mindset, and then all of a sudden working on it over, it gets a lot easier. I mean, it's very lucrative. There's that, but there is so much importance in hope, because when I find myself slipping into bad habits, eating more junk food, it's not because it's not when I'm lazy. It's not when I'm comfortable. It's not when I'm content, which is when it might be for some people. I can only speak for myself on this. But when I find myself like falling out of my discipline, falling out of my good habits, it's when I start becoming hopeless. It's when I start losing hope. And what I mean by hopeless, I want to be specific. I'm trying not to be vague, because I hate it when people are vague. I'm going to be specific. Whenever I have a goal in mind and I'm working really hard towards that goal, the thing that keeps me motivated, the thing that keeps me disciplined, the thing that keeps me locked in, working hard, doing hard things, is because there's that hope that the goal will be achieved. And when I find myself slipping out of those good habits and being like, whatever, let me just get some of the junk food. Let me just get some unhealthy food. Let me I don't feel like doing this hard work today. I'll do something easy instead. That starts happening when I start losing hope. Even like in micro doses, when I start being like, man, this goal that I'm working for is still so far away, and at this rate, maybe it won't even happen. What's the point? What's the point? Why am I doing this? I should probably start gearing up for having to lose. I say lose, and that might not be the right term for it, but having to give up on what I'm trying to do and relinquish myself to things that I don't want to do. And that's when I start slipping. Eating worse food, when I start not caring about sleep, when I start skipping workouts. I start skipping workouts whenever I've lost hope. And that realization has given me even more empathy for people in hard situations. And people who are in these really hard situations, when they hear double down, lock in, work hard, there's at least 45 minutes of daytime left in your day that you could be squeezing out a little extra stuff to accomplish your dreams. When they hear stuff like that, it just makes it worse, man. I think there are some people who benefit from that. We'll call it tough love. But if somebody said that shit to me, it would wreck me. I've watched videos like that, and I'm like, well, you know what? They're right. I do have an extra 45 minutes to an hour in my day I could squeeze out a little extra productivity in. They're right. And I acknowledge they're right, and I say they're right, and I still don't do it. And I don't do it because why? Why bother? An extra 45 minutes a day for a year is going to get me nowhere, or at least it feels that way when you're hopeless, when you don't have that hope. I'm on an arc right now where I'm trying to shift lenses, shift perspectives into hope. And it's really hard for me, especially because I led a very negative driven lifestyle in my late teens, early 20s. And what I mean by that is I was fueled through negative emotions. I'm always talking about Star Wars. You're just gonna have to deal with it or leave, because I love Star Wars. But I was very dark side. And what I mean by that is I would utilize spite, anger, hatred of certain people, frustration, to some degrees even envy. I would when I needed to get something done, I would tap into those emotions to make it happen. And just like the dark side of the Force, it does work. You can accomplish things by tapping into those negative emotions. I've done it. I've seen it done. But not to sound too tropey or cheesy, but it does come at such a cost. It makes you worse. It really does. It makes you a worse person. And it can be tempting because it is a lot easier to tap into those emotions, especially with like creative projects or really just anything. It is so much easier to tap into those for a quick boost of productivity, at least in my own experience. So I do understand it. And I've seen incredible things be accomplished out of spite, out of frustration, out of anger, to prove a point, out of pride. But every time with time, I felt worse as a human. Like I felt like I had lost a part of myself doing that. And that again is like vague and cheesy to say, but it's real, man. That's real. I felt like a worse, like a less of a person. Like I'd lost a little piece of myself in the process. And reframing my life to try to take advantage of more positive emotions is so much harder. Those emotions they don't ignite nearly as fast. It's like the difference between trying to start a fire with gasoline and trying to start a fire with like twigs and leaves. But it also has the same result. You start a fire with gas, it ignites immediately, but it burns out fast, and it doesn't leave you with much. But it's so much easier that it's so tempting to try to do that, emotionally speaking. But you start a fire with hope, it's a lot harder and it takes a lot longer to start, but it burns for so much longer, and it accomplishes way more. But it's hard to maintain too. It's hard to maintain because I make great strides to rely on hope as an emotion for my productivity, or just good emotions in general. Doing things out of love, out of self-sacrifice, very Jedi, very Christian. Those things are hard. And you don't want to do them. I don't want to do them a lot of times. I have to like catch myself and be like, who do I want to be? All right, I know who I want to be, and I know what the person that I want to be would have to do here. That's not me, by the way. I'll see the thing and I'll be like, I don't want to do that. Who I am won't do that. So I have to not be who I am and be who I want to be. And that's something a lot of people don't tell you. You can't be who you are and be better. And that's why I have to always hold myself to the standard of, but who do I want to be? I don't even care if I'm never him, as long as holding myself to that standard gets me to become him temporarily in instances. Eventually, I'll just keep getting better and better. But who I am sucks. And I've that's another thing that people have to reckon with, and then they go into denial or coping, or at worst, they accept it. And that's why people fall on negative emotions, because they either don't want to admit that who they are sucks, or when they do admit it, they accept it, and then they just suck as a person. They're just not good people. And they'll say, well, at least I'm honest. Yeah, but you also suck. You can be honest and say, who I am would not want to help you with that. Who I am doesn't want to help you with that. Who I am will not help you with that. So I'm going to be who I should be. And I'm going to do that thing. It's harder, but it pays off. Much better results, much more positive results. Speaking of results, it's leg day. Okay, so I am back from the gym. I'm outside on our balcony here. We have a balcony in the apartment overlooking the land. It's decent view. So I went in, I hit squats, I hit leg press, and I hit, actually that was it. I was gonna do Romanian deadlifts, but I chose not to do Romanian deadlifts because there's only one deadlift platform in the gym I go to, and the guy who was there hitting deadlifts was clearly gonna be there for like another, I don't know, probably 30-45 minutes. And I wasn't wanting to wait in the gym that long, so I was feeling kind of burnt out after just doing a leg press, and I just left. I got no excuses. I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to wait for him, and I just left. But I figured we should wrap up what I was talking about right at the beginning and kind of tie everything together. I'll put the exact quote here because I don't remember it exactly, but I'll paraphrase and say it was something like, the goal is to grow spiritually, not simply to avoid sin. And that's kind of what I was talking about with you're going to change no matter what. You're going to either get worse or get better. You're either turning yourself over to the mercy of entropy, which has no mercy, or you are taking accountability and enacting your own agency to make change in yourself. To decide, I'm going to become better, sharper, faster, stronger, smarter, wiser, but that doesn't just happen. If you're not taking action to ensure those things happen, you're gonna decay. You're gonna change. Like there is no way not to change. You're going to change, but are you going to get better or are you going to get worse? So that's kind of something that I think about every so often, and I try to remember that in what I'm doing. And I just kind of realized that ties back into my channel motto, Make It Matter. It's like my own personal motto. I'm not wearing my Make It Matter shirt here today. I will later, but that shirt is available, by the way, for sale, if you want to cop your own Make It Matter shirt. If you're not a fan of the jagged thorn brush deathcore logo, then I don't know, wait till I figure out a different variation of the logo that I like. But this is the one I like. I spent a long time on it, so cop one of those if you like it. But yeah, it ties into the Make It Matter thing, which was, I think, the first episode of the vlogs that I put on this channel. Essentially, no matter what you're doing, try to find something edifying from it. Try to find something that helps you grow as a person from it. If you're listening to music, try to listen to music that inspires you to lift weights, inspires you to run, inspires you to create, inspires you to author, inspires you to study. Try not to listen to garbage. And when I say garbage, I don't mean that's not a moral judgment on certain music. It is a judgment call of how you react to what you're listening to. So some people can listen to really abrasive black metal, and it makes them excited to create stuff, I guess. Maybe that's tapping into negative emotions like I talked about earlier, but you see, like me, I love like metal music, like heavy, like deathcore, brutal slam music. Now granted, a lot of the metal and metalcore and deathcore I listen to has a lot of positive lyrics, a lot of uplifting lyrics whenever you really get down to it, but I do love, I listen to a lot of ultra heavy stuff that's just abrasive as well. The point is, I get it. You know, some people want to listen to heavy trap, hard rap music. If you can find something that inspires you, that grows you in some way. I use the word edifying. That's not exactly what edifying means, but to a degree, if just whatever you're doing, make it matter, because it is going to affect how you progress. You're either going to get better or you're going to get worse. So this is why I had to stop listening to sad music, because when I was a teenager, I exclusively listened to like emo, screamo, sad music, and I can still listen to psychotic like deathcore and be fine, but I kind of have to avoid screamo, sad music, or it makes me really sad, and it matters in the wrong way. I think it makes me a worse person. Some people can listen to that and be fine, I guess, but not me. But the point of that is, every day you're doing things. You're watching TV, you're listening to podcasts, you're listening to music, you're moving, you're walking, you're lifting even minor things. And the goal is not simply to avoid being injured. The goal is not simply to avoid stepping on somebody's toes. The goal is not simply to avoid sin. As that quote said, the goal is to grow spiritually. But I think we can apply that to everything. The goal is to grow closer to God, to grow smarter, wiser, to grow stronger, to lift weights, to play better video games, or at least play video games that make us excited to get after something. So for instance, if I were to run through a few rounds of Marvel Rivals, I would probably, which is popular as of recording this, I would probably want to play a character like Daredevil or the Punisher that's like mega jacked. So I'm keeping it in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is how I'm actually supposed to look physically, at least respectively, right? Obviously I can't look like a cartoon character's version of ultra steroided out, but I can look physically more in shape. I can have bigger traps, which I need bigger traps. I have some kind of injuries in my shoulders that make working out traps very difficult for me, but I need to overcome that too. I need to work out so much that I build muscle tissue around whatever the hell's going on in my back. Bigger quads, bigger biceps. You get the idea. And I feel that way anytime I play Marvel Rivals, because I just play a few rounds. I play as characters that inspire me, and I make it matter. So you're going to change. No matter what you do, you're going to change. But it's up to you to take agency over how you're going to change. Which direction are you headed? You're going up, you're going down. So it ties back to my motto, whatever you do, make it matter. If you watched this far, thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate hanging out and going over these. I'm looking forward to see how I progress, how I enact these own philosophies that I'm reciting to you, trying to keep them in mind for myself, working out, lifting, being better, being a better version of myself. So hopefully I can keep you guys updated on that. Also working on ideas for more dynamic vlogs. I talked about this last time. Just different things going on, doing different things with me and Carly. Maybe we'll go see a building or an interesting building or stuff. If I can ever get out of the financial situation I'm in, which is not good, maybe I can take us on little travel vlogs. We'll see. But right now I gotta hone in. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoy tuning in to these vlogs and hanging out with me, then make sure you're subscribing and liking the videos. I got more coming. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to make it matter, and I'll see you in the next video.